What is this shadow person doing? So let's see what questions we have only on Paranormal, True or False. It is free to subscribe. Please subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thank you. Is this cross possessed? On a wall at the bottom of the staircase, there's a bunch of crosses. However, one starts moving, and it's starting to move away from the wall while turning at the same time. I don't know if this is paranormal. What I do know is that this is easy to recreate using a string and just pulling that string while being off camera. Is this shadowy figure a shadow person? As we travel through this abandoned building, we travel through this fairly large room and head to a doorway on the left side of the room. The camera stays pointed at the door jamb right up until something is seen, and then they backpedal out of the room. Is this a shadow person? Or is it a living person dressed all in black? Is this staged? A hoax? A prank? Or is this real? One of the things that stands out for me on this video is the zooming into the door frame. This is called an extreme close-up, and it's very common in horror movies because the philosophy is when you zoom in on an object and you completely eliminate an escape path, it causes the watcher to feel claustrophobic or trapped. And you can literally Google extreme close up in horror films and you'll get a bunch of hits on this technique and why they use it in horror films. You will also find videos on YouTube regarding this technique of extreme close-ups. Now, what they should have done, I feel they should have moved the camera to the left from the door jamb over to the left, but they didn't. Instead, they're backpedaling. So I think the shock value would have been if we'd seen this right after being shoved up against that door frame. So I think it lost its horror value because they didn't do that aspect correctly. And until I created this channel, I didn't even know that was a thing in the motion picture industry. But to try and prepare myself for being able to identify things, this extreme close-up is one of the things I've had to learn. So for this clip, I appreciate their efforts. What is this ghostly figure? On the left side of the screen, you suddenly see something come from behind that tree and walk across that field. What is that? Is that a ghost? A spirit? What's going on here? Is there more than one? Did something just pop up in the middle of the screen? I thought that might be a lens flare or something on the lens, but I don't think so. This, however, is just odd. I don't think this is a stationary camera type of glitch. So I'm not sure if this is computer graphics, if it is visual effects, or if it's actual paranormal. Typically, I would label this as the footage is so grainy that it's inconclusive. But then the camera pans to the right and we see more of this type of activity at a slightly different location. So now we have another one that's popped up at the far right, and then all of a sudden a giant one will just pop up and start walking, and now all of a sudden we have a field of these things. So I feel like this is one of those where they recorded it twice, once without anything in the field, and then a second time with things, and then they just overlapped them or overlaid them. I don't know what the technical term is, but that's what I think happened with this footage. My rule of thumb is if there's too much activity, it's probably not real. What is this shadowy figure? As we look through this security screen door, we see what appears to be a hooded figure. What was that? So even with trying to enhance the footage or zoom in on the footage, we still get the same exact image. So I will try to explain how this works. These types of screen doors, security screen doors, they not only have the handle, but they also have a deadbolt lock. They not only have the bars that you can see, but behind those bars is a metal sheet. It could be an aluminum sheet, I don't know. But you know how you take and punch holes in paper? Well, that same size hole is actually punched into this metal, and it's throughout the entire metal so that you can see out. And when it's sun shining outside and it's dark inside your doorway, they can't see you, but you can see them. Both my grandparents and my aunt had this type of a screen door, and they installed them when I was living with my grandparents. And when you just glance out of these, the person out there can be so distorted that it can just look like a hooded figure without any type of real detail to them. But then when you get closer, you can actually see who they are and what's going on. But from the distance that that camera is from that door, that's an atypical illusion that you will see. So I don't know if this is staged or if they just accidentally caught somebody walking by, but either way, that's not paranormal. So now that you know that you're potentially looking through sheet metal that has a bunch of tiny holes in it, now maybe you can see the distortion that's actually occurring. And yes, it does depend on the angle of the sun coming through that door as to whether you can see more sheet metal or more open space like this. What is this unusual light? We see on the right a very large street light that is distorted by the atmosphere, by the camera, not sure. But then we see this smaller light moving across the ground. What is that smaller light? What is this? Initially, I want to say it's a camera glitch, a lens flare, something of that. But when it dissipates at the end here, that really throws me off, and I don't fully understand what this might be. I don't think it's a CG or video effect. I think there is definitely something there, but I don't know if it's somebody in a costume that has this type of reflective quality. I don't know. What do you think on this one? Leave me a comment below. Is this an angel near this fire? In the center of our screen, we see the fire, and on the right side, it looks like an angel. So it appears to be a controlled fire. But is this one of those fire tornadoes on the right side? So the color is stripped away due to the night vision camera we're using. But when we bring the color back in, this is a picture of a fire tornado. And right in the center of our screen, doesn't the smoke look like an angel? So it's possible that when they did this controlled fire, they inadvertently created a tornado, and the tornado is the smoke that looks like an angel. Because typically you're not going to use night vision for fires because the fire will provide the light. And then we can tell by the way the fire itself is jumping around that there is some additional wind occurring, which is most likely pushing that smoke of that fire tornado closer to the fire and then further away from it. And of course, I have to wonder if night vision wasn't used, would we even be able to see that angelic looking figure? So I feel like this might be just natural phenomenon. I wish it wasn't so grainy because I'd love to have an actual picture of this. Is this a shadow person? So we're using a cell phone, and as we get closer to this window, we see a black figure in that room, but then it disappears. Where did it go? Is this a shadow person? Is it something spiritual, demonic, dangerous? For me to be convinced this is real, when the camera gets to the window, they need to look all the way around that room. Show me all the corners. Show me nothing is hiding there. And because I'm not getting a camera view straight down on the inside of that window, then that tells me somebody's hiding there. Is this man being stalked by the paranormal? As this man sleeps on the blanket, a tricycle with no rider suddenly goes by. Then we cut to the next scene where somebody is on the roof and a bottle on a chair or stool falls off that stool. This wakes the guy up and he finds the bottle, puts it down on the ground, and lays back down. There is still a person on the roof. This time that stool levitates before it falls back down to the ground, confusing the guy that was trying to sleep. He doesn't see anything, but now we still have that person on the roof, and now the chair or the stool is levitated almost to the roof before it falls and wakes the man up. So the man tries to go back to sleep, and this time the blanket attacks him. The bottle falls over. He's wrapped up tight. He can't move. So I think it's safe to say that we've made a really good horror movie, but none of it is real. Is this a ghost in the background? As these ladies are taking a picture, we see over the left shoulder on the right hand side a lady that is standing in the doorway. I never know why this type of situation is ever classified as paranormal. Seriously, so there's a human being standing in a doorway. That doesn't make them a ghost. In my world, that's called a photobomb, where you insert yourself in somebody else's picture. Is this shadow person demonstrating aggression? So we have a pedestrian with a couple of bags in his hands, walking down the street, and a motorcyclist. Both are looking down the street at something that might be there. Then all of a sudden, we see a shadow figure walk into frame and head right towards the motorcyclist. The motorcyclist gets off his motorcycle, shoves his motorcycle towards the shadow person, And he leaves and goes indoors, and then the shadow person runs down the street. This is one of those video overlay type situations where they have filmed it twice, once without that shadow person, and then a second time where that shadow person is the only one there, and he walks right towards that motorcycle, but then they blur out the image of the actual living person. And they change that living person into this black blob by increasing the transparency. So if I take my logo and I increase the transparency, reduce the brightness, and flip the image, now all of a sudden you have just a little bit of what was there. I can add a mask, and now you can't tell what was originally there, which is what they've done with this image. Just editing tricks. Did a poltergeist cause this activity? So we see one employee working in this kitchen. As we zoom in, we will suddenly see something bounce from the right to the left to the floor. It is some type of a pan or dish or bottle, I can't really tell. It looks to me like that's actually an open walkway right there. I don't know if there's a drive-through window and they just tossed that item through the window because they were mad about something. But because I can't see around that corner, I'm not totally convinced this is paranormal. I feel like somebody tossed that. It didn't just fall. Who or what is invading this office? This office door slowly opens, apparently by itself. Then on the desk, suddenly a monitor turns on. It flashes a couple of times, then turns off. Who or what opened that door? Who or what turned on that monitor? Is this a hoax? Is it a prank? Is it staged? Is it a ghost, spirit, demon? Well, it could be a vain demon or a vain ghost, because I think they're taking a picture of themselves. This one is definitely unique in that we have that flashing light attached to the monitor. But is that system set up to a remote where someone has a remote and is just hitting buttons? And they're standing under the camera next to the door, and they're the ones that opened up the door too. I'm not sure on this one. I'm not convinced it's paranormal, but I'm not exactly sure how they turned on the monitor and got the flashing lights unless they definitely have that set up on a remote. What do you think on this one? Leave me a comment below. If you agree or disagree with my analysis, please leave a comment below. You will find links to social media platforms for this channel as well as for Jim Riley in the description below. Be safe and don't investigate alone. If you appreciate this type of analytical analysis, please subscribe. And remember, question everything. Thanks for watching Paranormal, True or False.